This is the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome into another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast, breaking down everything in Districts 5 and 6 in the state of Idaho. I'm Brandon Baney. He is Sean Kane. Sean, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, man? Not a whole lot. School started. We got kids in class, and we got sports on the field, man.
Yeah, we had kind of, when a new business opens, they have a soft open where, it's just kind of, everything's
Come in, look at it. Yeah, we're not really opening, but try it out.
Yeah, last week was kind of the soft open. We had some teams competing, but this week, like every school and almost every sport is going to be competing at some point. So really exciting.
Oh yeah, it's there's good. I think there's just good atmosphere in the Pocatello area. Everyone's real excited to be back to football, basketball, volleyball. I saw a bunch of cross countries runners up by where we live today. They were sucking some wind in the heat, and I think I think everyone's, I hate using that generic term like getting back to normal, but it feels way back to normal to me, like for sports and school, and I love it. It feels great.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I know everybody, all the diehards up in Idaho Falls and Rexburg, and they're getting ready too. And some teams got ready and showed up really well. Let's recap what happened last week. In football, there was actually a handful of teams from East Idaho that were competing. The game we had on IdahoSports.com was Rigby playing Coeur d'Alene at a neutral site, the University of Montana's Washington Grizzlies Stadium up in Missoula, Montana. I was on the call for that game, Sean. Rigby looked good. I mean, I wasn't sure coming in because they had to replace so many guys, but
yeah, and we watched them a bunch. We've covered them. I thought the same thing. And I watched the broadcast, obviously, and what I could think of was the guy from Arizona. He goes, "They are who we thought they were." That's kind of what I thought when I saw Rigby. They are who we thought they were, and I'm like, that's what came to mind, and that's what I got from Rigby last week in their play especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yes, a 24-0 shutout of Coeur d'Alene. The Rigby defense logged 4 takeaways, 3 fumble recoveries, and an interception. Mason. So I was doing the game with my family. Actually, I had my brother running the camera. I had my dad keeping stats, and we all kind of took a poll. Hey, who should the IdahoSports.com player of the game be? And we all came up with a different guy. So
that never happens with me and you, by the way. But
no, we're always on the same page. I wanted to give it to Mason Burgess, the junior linebacker. He came off the edge a couple of times and was just unblocked for whatever reason. He had a sack. He had a key fumble recovery that turned into a 15-yard scoop and score for a touchdown. So I thought he played really well. Offensively, Luke Flowers, first year as a starting quarterback, has already picked up an offer from a Division I school, Arizona, which is exciting. He threw for 207 yards and 2 touchdowns and made it look easy, to be honest. Brady Packer played really well at wide receiver, and mea culpa to the Rigby fans out there listening. Luke Flowers threw 2 touchdowns. The first one was a 70-yard bomb to Brady Packer. He wears the number 12. The second touchdown came to Cade Steffler. He wears the number 14, but they were close enough that for some reason I just had Packer in my head, and I gave Cade Steffler's touchdown to Brady Packer, and I am truly sorry for that. That usually doesn't happen to me, but the first game I'm still, shaking off the rust. It's, been a whole year since I've called a football game. So yeah, my apologies to Cade Steffler, but he caught the second touchdown, but Rigby they looked good in every asset.
Yeah. And Rigby and Armando Gonzalez, their coach, he's not going to care as long as that touchdown happens. He's going to be happy if, whoever catches it. And I think that's why they're always so good is they always have stars, and they always can be very unselfish on there too. And that's a recipe for success, obviously.
Definitely. So Rigby, they're still good. They got nothing to worry about.
They are who we said they are.
That's right. They have a pretty tough game. They're going to travel down to Skyview, Utah this week. Skyview is one of the premier Utah programs. The Bobcats are, multiple D1 players year in, year out. So this will be a good test for Rigby here in week 1 as they hit the road again. Their first 5 games are on the road this year, Sean.
And with the new turf and everything, you think they would want to be there at home. But, sometimes, I was talking to some other people, but, the coaches that go out there and get those games and work hard to get them, it pays off. Maybe not this year, maybe next year, maybe a couple years down the road, but building that schedule and, you only have 8 games. You've got to make the most of it. And, credit to them for trying to do that.
Yeah, so the first 5 on the road, and then 3 of their last 4 are home games. So that's going to be a nice little baked-in thing for Rigby down the stretch for sure. They got to get there first, but man, 1-0 start. They look really good. In fact, the only 5A team from East Idaho that didn't play last week was Highland, as Madison and Thunder Ridge both hit the road as well. Thunder Ridge went to Minico. That was a game we also had a broadcast of on IdahoSports.com. They lost to Minico 40-21. Now, Minico is a pretty good 4A team. I think it says more about Minico than it does about Thunder Ridge.
Yeah, and I was watching that one too, and that game was kind of closer, and then there was kind of a long rain delay, maybe lightning. I couldn't quite tell, but they had a delay for a while, and kind of after that delay, Minico just kind of put it away. They kind of I think they were ready to be done with the delay, but yeah, they again, they're just very solid on both sides of the ball, and first year head coach at Thunder Ridge, and they're trying to put together a new kind of program and stuff, but they did very well. They've got some holes to fill, but tough conference there in Southeast Idaho 5A football for sure.
Yeah, and then the team that's got to be the most frustrated, I feel like, is Madison. They went all the way over to Owyhee to play the Storm. Now, Madison outgained Owyhee in total yardage, just, some unfortunate turnovers and things like that. And Owyhee comes away with a 13-7 win in a game that Madison feels like we probably should have won. But, you got to actually deliver and do it. So now they're 0-1. But I think they're going to be okay still. Ben Dredge is back at quarterback, and he was doing his normal thing where he kind of scrambles around.
Runs around all over and
yeah,
makes something happen.
Yeah, but for Madison, kind of a bummer. That was a long road trip for sure. And now they turn around and will play in the Rocky Mountain Rumble, and we'll talk about that coming up in just a little bit. Other teams that were in action last week, there was one 4A squad. That was Preston. They went and played Lakeland in a neutral site game at Montana Tech University in Butte. They were shut out 28-0. This is a Preston team that's young. They lost a lot of talent. They've got a new coach in Craig Cunningham, and it's going to be maybe a week-by-week improvement for Preston.
Yeah, I would agree. It's just they've got some pieces there. They just might not know how they all fit together at this point. And Lakeland Lakeland's slowly always kind of they're kind of on the edge. They make the playoffs. They maybe don't win that first round, but they've kept it close on both first rounds the last few years. And that's a Lakeland team that's, I think, hungry to kind of get into that second, third round of the playoffs. And that's what it looked like this week.
Definitely. And they've got a new coach as well. So maybe new motivation, new style, new energy into that Lakeland program. 3A, Sugar-Salem. We talked about it last week. Their coaching staff said, I don't want to be the first team we play in 2022. Soda Springs volunteered for that duty. They got a home game out of it, but the Diggers won 48-16. Now check this out, Sean. They say bad luck comes in threes. All right. Well, as the Diggers are traveling down to Soda Springs, the bus breaks down. That's strike one. Then they get the game going, and it gets delayed by lightning. That's strike two. And you're like, oh man, what's the third strike? Where's the hammer going to drop? Well, the third strike went to Soda Springs, and Sugar had no problems. 48-16 win. They made it look easy.
Yeah, definitely. And, Sugar-Salem is going to be one of those teams in 3A that you're just going to have to keep an eye out. And, they've got them ranked in the coaches poll this week at 3, but I look at those teams and I'm thinking any given day that Sugar-Salem team could beat them. But I have to give some credit to Soda Springs. If I had to look right now and tell you who had the toughest schedule out of any team in the state, I would probably point towards them. So credit to them for scheduling tough games and trying to turn that program around a little bit. And that's sometimes what you got to do. So good for them. But Sugar-Salem, that's the team there. That's a playoff team. You can tell from the start, the get go.
For sure. And Sugar is going to be playing at the Rocky Mountain Rumble this weekend as well. Yeah. So Danny Neal, 213 yards passing and a touchdown through the air. To me, he's the key. We know they've got Carson Harris, who's a good running back. They've got some good receivers. Last year, and again, I only saw Sugar play a couple of times, and I only called one game, and that was the championship. Actually, I called their quarterfinal game against Marsh Valley as well.
Okay.
But Danny Neal a couple of times, turn the ball over, and if he can clean that up, then I think Sugar's a really good team.
Yeah, he's got to make, that's why they have him back there. He's going to make those decisions, and you've got to just kind of keep pushing him to go for it, I think, too. And sometimes they're the wrong decisions, but as it goes on, he's got that confidence to make it, and that's what's important later on in the season, I think, is your key players having the confidence to go out and make the plays you need to.
And of course, Sugar-Salem's biggest rival in terms of the conference is South Fremont. They started the year 1-0. Hey, Wood River, welcome to 3A football. And South Fremont defeats the Wolverines 20-8. We talked about Wood River enough last week and how that's going to go, but good start for South Fremont as well. Yeah,
that's kind of what we picked to happen. We're right sometimes, but South Fremont's always that 3A in kind of Southeast Idaho. There's just a lot of good 3A is just a tough conference. It's hard to look at any of the 3A conferences and go, there's bad teams. Every conference has got some solid teams that come out of there, and South Fremont they'll be right in there. I bet you they crack into the coaches poll at some point this year too.
Yes, they're always such a good team. Chad Hill is a really good coach. He's been doing it a long time there for the Cougars of South Fremont. Let's talk soccer. Soccer got started this weekend as well. And I think if you ask people, in East Idaho, who are the teams that are drawing the most, preseason accolades, they'd say Sugar-Salem, certainly on the boys' side, and Teton on the boys' side. And on the girls' side, though, it was Highland, right? Highland is a team that's gotten to state the last couple of years. Favored to win their conference, although Thunder Ridge might have something to say about that. I know Thunder Ridge thinks they have a pretty good girls team, and we'll see. But Highland comes out in their season opener against Pocatello on Friday, and the Thunder get the 1-0 win. Now, this is a Pocatello team that's building, right? They were in a downswing, and now they're kind of coming out of it. But boy, a 1-0 win over Highland to start the year, pretty good for the Pocatello ladies.
Yeah, I mean, Pocatello girls soccer made it to state for last year, and it had been some time, with only a 3-team conference, only one goes, and it had been some time. They made it to state last year. Congrats to them. They got to play at Alameda. It's kind of like their Alameda Middle School is like their new home field, so they had actually kind of like a new home field they play on. So that was kind of neat to break in. And in the game, so I talked to some people, about the game, and the game was Highland controlled a lot of the game, and then just kind of a late mistake led to that goal towards the very end of the game. So that goes both ways. Soccer, you can control the ball the whole time and lose the game, right? I mean, that's how soccer goes. So, congrats to Pokey, but it sounded like Highland had a lot of the control, but when it push came to shove, Pocatello came in and got that late goal at the end, and that's why I was talking to some coaches. I mean, that's soccer. You could have all the stats and lose the game more than any other sport I can think of.
Just ask Idaho State. That happened so often to their women's soccer team last year.
They were always right there, right? They just were controlling the games, and one goal, or they were tied and would give up one goal. I noticed that last year as well.
Yeah. And one more bit of news, it's kind of out of season, but I did see this today, a Highland to Idaho State connection. Certainly there's lots of Highland athletes that are playing at Idaho State right now. Ian Hershey getting ready to kick and punt for the Bengals, which is, awesome for him. But softball standout Jenna Kearns from Highland signed with Idaho State's softball program this week, which is awesome. Good for her. Congratulations. She's awesome. She was the catcher on the Rams last year, and she was awesome. So
yeah, that's great. I mean, there's going up and watching a softball game at ISU is really kind of fun. You can go sit up on the hill at Bart's Field, and it's a very cool venue. It's a very unique, cool, just like there's this really great little softball field kind of in the middle of a dog park, but I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
you just you don't think it's there, and they're like, oh, there's a park, but that'll be great. That'll be great for her to be there, and that's always exciting to have some local players at Idaho State.
definitely. The parking isn't always great, but the park itself is very nice at
And you
Idaho
might
State.
have to walk a little bit, but you're getting your steps in, the sun's out. Why not?
Right. Highland did rebound on Saturday after that 1-0 loss to Pocatello on Friday, and the boys were supposed to play, but it got rained out or postponed due to bad weather. So the Pokey and Highland boys didn't actually get to play on Friday. But the girls, after dropping that 1-0 game to Pocatello, had to play Twin Falls, the defending 4A champions, on Saturday, and they earned a 1-1 draw. So I thought that was a nice bounce back for Highland against still a pretty good Twin Falls team. So
yeah, I think Twins still ranked in some of the polls as the number 1 team in 4A. And they've been pretty dominant for a few years as just a really tough field, or a tough team to go against. And Highland also yesterday picked up an 8-1 win versus Preston here locally too. So they've rebounded pretty well after that. And, if you talk to any coach, the first game, playing the big in-city rival, the first game is not always what we are looking forward to on our schedules. But it doesn't matter in the big pictures of the things, but it matters kind of in motivation and kind of getting that effort later on in the year.
Definitely. Let's switch gears to volleyball now. I've gotten a lot of questions about, hey, when are you guys going to start talking about volleyball? Well, we're going to start now because the season is actually starting finally. Volleyball teams will begin competition this weekend. Today, the first volleyball coaches polls came out. It's all preseason. Nobody's played yet, so everybody's just kind of taking their best guess. There's probably 170 or so volleyball teams around the state, right? Because even the really small schools can play.
Everyone has a volleyball team, right? Yeah, they're just tons.
I counted today 90 teams got at least a vote in these preseason polls. That's like half the teams, which is crazy.
Well, they're confident, and I like it.
Well, to me, it just means it could be kind of wide open and unpredictable, except for maybe 4A, 3A. I think Skyview at the 4A, Sugar-Salem at the 3A are so far ahead of everybody else, but the other classifications could be wide open. Let's start with 5A. Madison was the top team in the preseason coaches poll. They got 7 first place votes, and they are the only other team from East Idaho ranked in the top 5 is Thunder Ridge, and they are in a tie for 4th with Mountain View and Owyhee. So, and we know Madison's good, right? They were playing on Saturday last year at state. We're one of the final 3 teams, and they've got a lot of good players coming back. So,
yeah. And in fact, I think a couple of people have mentioned they might have one of the best players in the state on their team. Excuse me, I can't think of her name off the top of my head because it just dawned on me, but Madison's going to be really tough. Thunder Ridge, I feel like, has just an endless supply of girls talent. They just are good. They just have so many good girls, and that'll be real exciting for them as well.
Definitely. Yeah. Madison's got a couple of all conference performers coming back this year. Kinley Curbs is really awesome.
That might be who I'm thinking of. And a bunch of people, were like, they might not say it out loud, but they felt like that might be one of the best players in the whole state.
Yeah, Curbs is good. I know Mariah Wilson got all conference honors, and Maddie Wilcox did as well. So it's a good nucleus for Madison to kind of build around there. In the 4A poll, Skyview clearly number 1. They're the best volleyball program in the state, no matter what level you're playing at. So that one's kind of a race for second, I feel like. But Bonneville is second in the preseason coaches poll, and Century in there at number 5.
Yeah, and Bonneville had always been up there, and Century was always very competitive there. But I feel like the last few years I haven't seen a lot of Bonneville. And Idaho Falls used to always have Idaho Falls. I remember won 5A and then dropped down to 4A, and Idaho Falls always has a really tough volleyball team too. I think they got some votes. But yeah, Bonneville. I'm glad to see Bonneville back up there, and that's. I think it's just going to be. I think you have Skyview, and then you've got a lot of parity. You've got a lot of things. I think Wood River comes back too with a pretty good team from last year. I wouldn't sleep on the Thunder of Pocatello either. I think they've got a pretty good team. I know Preston's done a lot of work too. So then you've always got teams from up north like Sandpoint come and compete very well at the state tournament. So 4A again, 4A has the most schools. Those state tournaments are always the most interesting with max preps and all that becomes very, very interesting. I mean, I don't think the number 1 seed will be in much question, but who knows? You got a long season, but I think as far as 4A and Skyview competing in the Boise area, they've got a pretty good shot at winning that conference.
Yeah, I mean, Eden Bauer is kind of the key player for them. She just got offered from BYU today, so or this week. So I mean, that's kind of where they're at. So yeah, Bonneville and Century in the top 5, Idaho Falls, Blackfoot, Pocatello, Skyline, Hillcrest, all receiving votes. Kind of giving you an idea of, I don't know if anybody's too sure what's going on. 3A, Sugar-Salem, again, heavy favorite here. They're so good. They returned so many players from last year's team. But South Fremont also in the poll at number 4, and they caught a first place vote. And Snake River is in there right now at number 5 as well. So 3 teams from East Idaho in the top 5 for 3A.
Yeah, of course, we know Sugar-Salem's a powerhouse, and South Fremont's is always really good. And Snake River, I feel like a few years back was kind of a powerhouse in 3A volleyball. So maybe they're on the uptrend. I also see like Marsh Valley received some votes from the area, and Marsh Valley I know has done a lot to work on their volleyball program. I know some of the people involved in that, and so I would watch out for Marsh Valley. They're always they're kind of always you kind of see Marsh Valley popping up a lot in a lot of these polls and all the sports, just they're kind of creeping their way in, you know what I mean? And the Eagles are flying a little bit this year, it looks like.
They are pretty consistently in just about every sport. They're always in the mix at state. They're always there. So yeah, Marsh Valley for sure. American Falls also got some votes in this preseason poll. The 2A poll, West Side, the number 1 team. West Side and Bear Lake have really been fighting for supremacy in that conference the last several years. West Side is ranked number 1, and then you've got Ryrie at number 5. I think Ryrie is a sleeper team. I think Ryrie last year really came onto the scene, got to state, and I'm expecting big things from the Bulldogs this year.
Yeah, Ryrie, I mean, they've had some good tennis players come out of there that have had to go play other places. And a lot of times tall, long arm girls are good at volleyball and tennis. It kind of goes together. So I wouldn't be surprised at that. And yeah, I think we were in West Side when West Side won their district. I think that we were at a football game and the girls had won their district and had said that because they beat Bear Lake or something. So that'll be a good battle down there. And in that neck of the woods, that south neck of the woods, I think for sure between West Side and Bear Lake and the girls volleyball, that'll be a difficult district, but really fun.
It will be, because Bear Lake got votes, Aberdeen got votes, Malad got votes, and then up north, West Jefferson has been really good the last couple of years. West J from District 6 got votes as well. So yeah, a lot of good volleyball going on in the 2A ranks. 1A D1, Grace tied for 4th in the top 5. And Grace had this really awesome group of athletes come through. A lot of them have graduated now, and so it's up to the next group of players to kind of fill the gaps at Grace. And 1A D1's hard to predict because you're 1 or 2 injuries away from really having the complexion of your season change, right?
Oh yeah, it's just the numbers are slim picking, and your team is your team, right? I think that's what I've seen watching these smaller divisions. If you have one person get hurt, it can just be catastrophic, and you might not have a ton of people to sub in to begin with. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how that turns out. And there's, again, like you said, there's just tons of teams, and I'm just looking at all the people who got votes, and yeah, that'll be that's a lot of volleyball.
Yeah, Chalice and Butte County both received votes as well from East Idaho. Chalice is kind of sneaky, I think. Keep an eye on Chalice this year. 1A D2. Rockland tied for 1st. Mackey 3rd. Ledor 4th. And this is kind of setting up what we saw last year, where the conference in volleyball and in girls basketball, the Rocky Mountain Conference was really good. And so Rockland, Mackey, and Ledor, all 3 of those teams are really good. And I haven't looked at the bracketing yet, but typically only 2 teams get in from the Rocky Mountains. So that could mean a good team is staying home at state.
Yeah, I think it is only 2 unless it changed this year, and I don't know, but that'll be super tough. Um, and that's why conferences become so important. That's why I like it when conference plays just so important that winning your conference means a big deal, because not only do you beat that other team in your conference, it potentially sets up being on the opposite half. So the only way you're going to play with them again is in the championship. And sometimes people don't think about that, but with max preps, hopefully that if you beat them, you will be on opposite sides. And because I think the biggest problem we've had with tournaments is playing the same team over and over and over again first rounds. And so getting on an opposite bracket side would be great for Rockland or Mackey. And Rockland's just sports wise, last year they had a phenomenal year, and they're shaping up to have another big year. So I thought they were kind of one of the biggest sports teams of all last year, probably in Southeast Idaho. They just had a phenomenal group of athletes, girls and boys.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. And I did just look it up, Sean. 2.5 bids from the Rocky
so they
Mountain
get a play in
Conference.
one.
So the good news is whoever takes third has a chance to play in. The bad news is you got to go all the way to Prairie High School up in Cottonwood to do it, and you're
right by the prison.
you're playing the champion of District 1, which more than likely will be Clark Fork. Clark Fork typically has ruled that conference over the past couple of years. So good to see 3 teams there. And then Grace Lutheran also received votes. So keep an eye out for the Royals from Grace Lutheran.
Right on.
Yeah. Yep. So that's kind of what's going on in volleyball. Everyone's going to start competing this weekend. And then next week, we'll talk about this quite a bit more, Sean, but next weekend is one of the premier volleyball tournaments in the state of Idaho, the Peg Peterson Invitational that Highland hosts every year. I mean, there's usually 30 to 40 teams that descend upon Pocatello to compete in that one.
Yeah, it's gotten so big. I think they use the MEC for some of those games too, the athletic venue here in Pocatello. So I think it used to just be in Highland High School, but now I think it's so big they use both venues.
You are correct. And the MEC is the Mountain Event Center, right?
Yes.
That's
very close to Highland. It's like you could throw something from it almost.
Yeah, the Mountain View Event Center.
Mountain View, yeah, there we go.
Yes. There's lots of bazaars and things that get held in there, do craft shows and whatnot. I go to those with my wife, I'll admit. So
Brandon has a lot of nice handbags, and
I do. It really, you gotta. So it's a whole look that I'm trying to pull off here.
I get it
for sure. All right, let's wrap up with football. What's going on this week? We have to start with the Rocky Mountain Rumble. I mean, this is the biggest event ever. For the first time, there are 8 games, 4 on Friday, 4 on Saturday, 8 of Utah's best against 8 of Idaho's best in terms of just.
It used to be one day, right? I think it only used to be one day. I mean, it's just grown exponentially.
Yeah, and it used to be, teams from like California and Washington would come, and in recent years it's kind of turned into a Utah-Idaho thing. But honestly, I mean, the teams in Utah are all really good. So
yeah,
it's all good.
I like it.
Yeah. So in terms of East Idaho teams that are playing, the first game with an East Idaho squad will be on Friday. It's the very first game. 11 o'clock in the morning, Marsh Valley will take on South Summit High School. And again, all of these games will be streamed live on IdahoSports.com. So you can tune in basically all day Friday and Saturday and get your fill of football. So Marsh Valley will play South Summit High School Friday at 11. And then that's it for East Idaho teams. And then
what about Skyline?
Friday.
Skyline. 8 o'clock, Skyline Grizzlies.
Oh, yes, you are right. Yes, Skyline.
Don't forget Skyline, Brandon. Again, they're gonna call you up again, trying to save you.
They are. I was trying to jump ahead to Saturday. You know what the problem was? Is I'm looking at District 5 here on my screen, and I need to look at District 6 as well.
Yeah, we got Skyline Grizzlies versus Stansberry Stallions. What a name!
Yeah, Stansberry. We'll play Skyline at 8 o'clock. On Friday night. You are correct. And then on to Saturday, there will be 3 more East Idaho teams in action. Pocatello will play at 2 o'clock against Morgan High School. You will have, where is Sugar-Salem at? They're playing, let's see.
You got Highland Rams at 5:00 versus Lehigh Pioneers.
Yes. Okay. Highland against the Lehigh Pioneers. For some reason, I thought Sugar was playing in this, but I must have gotten that. They played in last year's. That's what.
And then you have at 8:00, you have Madison Bobcats versus Tulane Buffaloes.
Tuella.
The
Tuella Buffaloes.
Tuella. Wow, they've got great names.
Yes,
I'm liking all these names.
Whew. Hey, it's not like I'm calling these games or anything. I should probably figure out who's actually playing in this.
You guys should have asked me to. Now you're going to feel real bad. But
I'll admit I've done my research on the Utah teams first because they all have played 2 games so far.
This Utah season does start earlier. So
yeah, so it was easier for me to figure out the Utah schools and the Idaho schools. I'm finishing up my prep tomorrow on that. So anyways, so yeah, Madison, Skyline, Highland, Pocatello, Marsh Valley, all representing the great state of Idaho in the Rocky Mountain Rumble. Other games that will be on IdahoSports.com. That's right. We're bringing you stuff outside of the Rocky Mountain Rumble. How about Friday night, 7:00 at Ravston Stadium? Thunder Ridge taking on Idaho Falls. They used to be conference rivals, no longer, but this is an important game, I feel like. Thunder Ridge is 0-1. They don't want to start 0-2. And Idaho Falls has a lot of people questioning, after last year where they missed the playoffs by a game, essentially. This is going to be a big statement opportunity for Idaho Falls as well.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Idaho Falls is going to make the playoffs and at the start of the year, and then it didn't happen. And then you've got a Thunder Ridge team with some new leadership trying to kind of, make their break into the Idaho Falls area. So, good rivalry game. And both it's kind of a statement game for both. I mean, if you're Idaho Falls now that's moved down to 4A, you beat a 5A team. That's always good for your resume. And like you said, for Thunder Ridge to come out and kind of not go down 0-2 playing that early week 0 game, I think that's important for your team and what you're trying to build.
Yeah, so big opportunity for Idaho Falls there, and that game will be on IdahoSports.com, 7:00 kickoff from Ravston Stadium. We'll also be bringing you Friday night a non-conference game in the 4A ranks. The Blackfoot Broncos are going to travel over to Emmett to play, and people forget that Emmett won the 3A SIC last year because they lost right away in the playoffs, but they are the reigning conference champs over there in District 3. And this to me is an interesting game as well. Blackfoot making the long trip across to Emmett.
Yeah, Emmett's I've been to a game at Emmett, and it's very interesting that they have the geometric dome schoolhouse out there. So it's pretty interesting. But Emmett's a good team. I was talking to some coaches, and they're like, don't be surprised to see Emmett come out from up there in this Ada County, or I don't know if they're in Ada County. I don't know where Emmett is as far as county lines. So revoke that comment. But from the Boise area, there we go. Yeah. But Emmett, they've been good they've just kind of been kept going, and that's a tough conference. There's a lot of good teams in there, and they're always getting a playoff spot out of that conference, which I think people forget. And that's a long trip, and it's a beautiful in the mountains field. It'll be a good game. It'll be a good wake up call for both teams, I think, to start the season.
Yeah, and you talk to Blackfoot fans, and they're excited about the potential of this year's team. Jackson Grimmett back at quarterback, Austin Ramirez, the running back, Javante King, and Deegan Hale, their top 2 receivers. They're set up. The potential is there for Blackfoot to put together a nice season. And then we've got a Saturday game for you on IdahoSports.com as well. Actually, not a Saturday game. Scratch that. Friday night, it is Bear Lake at North Fremont. These are some of the preseason favorites from District 5 and District 6. Bear Lake was picked first in the preseason coaches poll down in District 5, and North Fremont and Firth, you can flip a coin up in District 6. But this is an important game. I think North Fremont's going to be really good. I vote in the media poll every week, and I have voted North Fremont as my number 1 team in Class 2A for 2 weeks in a row now. I think they're going to be really good. And Bear Lake, I think this is an opportunity for them to show what kind of team they can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bear Lake's been on the edge. They've just had the powerhouse of Westside in their conference, and for me, until I see someone beat Westside, I'll jump on that bandwagon. But I've never seen it. I've never even seen it be close. So I know there's been some close games, but I personally haven't ever seen it. And North Fremont and South Fremont are just always so tough. And I really like those 5th and 6th district games where they go and play each other. And usually happens at the start of the season. Like Firth and West Side, I think, will be both of their first games again this year for like the 13th year or something they were saying in a row, which that game's always gnarly too. So yeah, a good game for both teams, a couple coaches say, it doesn't matter because it's not a conference game, but it matters because we want to get that win against that hard opponent at the start of the season and set that tone. So
well, and Max Prep's rankings, that it factors in there as well, certainly. So
maybe.
Well, yeah.
I'm joking. They got to be devil's advocate every now and then.
Right. You are correct, though. West Side will be traveling to Firth for a 7:00 kickoff. Last year in the regular season opener for both teams, Instant Classic went to overtime, and West Side ended up pulling it out, and then they beat Firth for the second year in a row in the 2A championship. Other games of note, you've got Bonneville traveling to Logan, Utah. You've got Preston playing on Thursday night against South Sevier High School in Utah, and they're going to play that at Utah State University.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, Maverick Stadium. So that's kind of cool for Preston. And then Shelley says, oh, yeah? Well, we get to play on the blue turf. Shelley will play Star Valley, Wyoming on the blue turf at Boise State University, Albertson Stadium. How cool is that?
Wow, what a interesting game to be in Boise, those two teams. But what a great, they've probably added 100,000 more seats there since last year or something, but yeah, that place is nutso. And
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that's it.
I was going to say it's weird because both teams are traveling the same direction. They're both going west instead of meeting up somewhere. We asked the Shelley coaches when we first saw this and we were putting in the schedules for the season. We said, that can't be right. You're really playing at Boise State against a Wyoming team? They said, yes. They said, we basically want to be in the moment, and we want to have as many experiences for these kids as possible. So, hey, playing in Boise State and the blue turf, experience. You can check the box there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
How cool is that? And also another game that I think is going to be kind of interesting is Snake River at Kimberly in the 3A ranks. Just to see, both of these teams made Kimberly missed out on the playoffs last year, but they're expected to bounce back this year. Snake River is a team that's getting a lot of preseason buzz. So it'll be interesting to see how those two teams kind of feel each other out in their season opener as well.
Yeah, you got Snake River coming in preseason ranked number 5 and Kimberly getting some votes. So that area, Kimberly, that Treasure Valley area 3A, they just have so many teams in that area. They're always so solid, but Snake River has always kind of been a powerhouse, and I believe they have a new coach too. There's so many new coaches, it's hard to keep track of. I'm pretty sure they have a new head coach too, and they're kind of looking to kind of get it back on track and winning or being in the playoffs and contending for the title.
Yeah, all three teams in that league, Marsh Valley, American Falls, Snake River, all have new head coaches. So
I'll try my best.
We'll see. So that's a lot to cover. That's just a sampling of what is happening this weekend. As always, we encourage you to go to IdahoSports.com and check on schedules and scores to see, where your favorite team is playing. And we'll recap as much of it as we can on next week's edition of the East Idaho Prepcast. Sean, you ready for the first full week of competition?
I am. I got to catch a couple soccer games this week, so that was fun. And I'm pretty excited to see volleyball. Volleyball. I think they practice for like 8 hours a day. They put in a lot of work in volleyball, and so it's pretty fun to go watch some volleyball games. And cross country's getting going, and golf. There's a couple golf tournaments. I think the first one here was maybe today. I think some Century might have been going to one today, because there was soccer and golf, and we have some people with conflicts. So there might have been a golf tournament today. So that's getting going. So yeah, we won't have any lack of content. for you guys coming up.
And as a reminder, if there's something specific you want us to highlight or talk about, send us an email, Brandon@IdahoSports.com, or you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, etc. as well. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to the East Idaho Prepcast. For Sean Kane, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.